My wife falsely accused me, sending me to prison for 15 years. That's when I stopped seeing. Life as I knew it was perfect. I had everything a man could ask for: a loving wife, a beautiful home, a steady job that I worked hard at, and dreams. That seemed just within reach. Julia and I had been together for 8 years. We met in college, where we quickly became inseparable. She was smart, funny, and had a heart of gold. We were the perfect match, or at least I thought we were. Our marriage was solid, or so I believed. Julia was the love of my life, and we were planning to start a family. There were never any major issues between us, no fights or misunderstandings. Life felt good. But life has a funny way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. It all started one night when Julia came home later than usual from her work at the law firm. She'd been staying late for weeks, and I hadn't thought much of it at first. She told me she was working on a big case, a complicated legal matter that had her staying late to meet deadlines. But something about that night felt off. She seemed distracted, tense, and her usual warmth was missing. At first, I told myself that I was being paranoid. Maybe she was just tired. But I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something wasn't right. A week later, my worst fears came true. I had spent the evening watching a game, trying to unwind after a long week, when the doorbell rang. I was surprised when I opened the door and saw 2 uniformed officers standing there, their expressions grim. "Mr. Thompson?" one of the officers asked. I nodded, confused. "Yes, that's me. What's going on?" "We need to speak with you about a serious matter. Please come with us." Panic flooded through my veins. I couldn't understand what was happening. I followed them outside and into their car, but I was still in the dark. "Is everything okay?" "What's this about?" I asked as we drove in silence, the streetlights flickering outside the window. When we finally arrived at the station, I was escorted to an interrogation room where a detective sat across from me. I felt the sweat bead on my forehead as I sat down, my hands shaking. "Mr. Thompson, we have an accusation against you," the detective said, his voice low. "An accusation?" I repeated, feeling a sense of dread settle in my stomach. The detective handed me a file, and when I opened it, my heart stopped. Inside was a statement from Julia, my wife. She had accused me of something so horrific that it took all my strength to even comprehend it. According to Julia, I had assaulted her. She claimed I had been abusive for years, but she had been too scared to speak up until now. The words in that statement were like a punch to the gut. I couldn't understand it. Julia, my wife, the woman I loved with all my heart, how could she say something like this? I tried to speak, to explain myself, but the detective wasn't having it. "Do you have anything to say, Mr. Thompson?" I was in shock. "This is a mistake," I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. "This is a complete misunderstanding. I love my wife. I would never hurt her. There must be some kind of mistake." The detective's eyes narrowed. "Your wife has made her statement, and we have evidence to back it up. You're under arrest for assault." The rest of the night was a blur. I remember being taken to a holding cell where I spent the longest night of my life. My mind raced, trying to make sense of what had just happened. How could Julia do this to me? I couldn't fathom it. She had always been supportive, loving, and kind. There had never been any indication that anything was wrong. The trial was a nightmare. Julia testified against me, painting a picture of a man who had abused her for years. The lies she told were so convincing that the jury believed her. Despite all the evidence I provided in my defense, the truth didn't matter. Her words were all that anyone cared about. I was convicted and sentenced to 15 years in prison. Was numb. 15 years. My entire life was stripped away in an instant. I couldn't believe that the woman I had trusted more than anyone else in the world could betray me like this. But it was happening, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. The weight of her lies crushed me. Prison was a harsh reality I never imagined I would face. The cold, sterile walls, the constant tension between inmates, the fear and the anger. It all became my new life. Every day was a battle to survive, to keep my head down and not get caught in the chaos of the prison system. But the hardest part wasn't the physical pain or the constant threat of violence. It was the emotional toll of being separated from my family, from my life. It was the knowledge that I was innocent, that I had lost everything to a lie. As the years passed, I thought about Julia constantly. I wondered if she ever thought about me, if she ever regretted what she had done. The woman I had married, the woman I had loved, had taken everything from me. And I could never understand why. The first few months in prison were the worst. I couldn't understand how it had all happened. My mind would replay every moment of my marriage, trying to find the cracks, the signs I had missed. But there were none. Julia had been my partner in every way. She was the one person I thought I could trust with everything. How could she have done this? I wrote her letters. I begged for her to tell the truth, to come forward and clear my name, but those letters went unanswered. She had completely cut me off, and with each passing day I felt the sting of her abandonment. Years went by. 5, 10. But the pain didn't fade. In fact, it only grew stronger. I had nothing left in the world. I was a man imprisoned, not just by steel bars, but by the lies of the one person who had meant everything to me. Then one day something unexpected happened. I received a letter from Julia. At first I thought it was a cruel joke. I hadn't heard from her in years, not a single word. But there it was, her handwriting on an envelope with my name on it. I opened it quickly, trembling as I read her words. James, I can't live with myself anymore. I have made a terrible mistake. I was manipulated by someone who I thought was helping me, but they were only using me. I know it's too late, but I need to tell you the truth. I lied about everything. You never hurt me. I was told what to say, and I was too scared to speak up. I thought I was protecting myself, but I was only destroying you. I'm so sorry. I could hardly believe what I was reading. My breath caught in my throat. She was admitting it. She was admitting that everything she had said was a lie, that I had been falsely accused, that I had spent 15 years of my life in prison because of her. I'm sorry, the letter continued. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to ever want to see me again, but I need you to know that I am truly sorry. I can't undo what I've done, but I hope you can find peace. Her words were a knife to my chest. They were everything I had wanted to hear for years, but they were hollow now. The damage had already been done. I had lost everything, my freedom, my career, my life, and now she was coming forward with the truth after all these years. The pain of those years in prison was something that no apology could ever erase. And yet, as I sat there reading her letter, I realized that I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't filled with rage or hatred. Instead, I was empty. There was nothing left to feel. She had destroyed my life, but in the end, she was the one who had to live with the consequences of her actions. She had to live with the guilt of what she had done, and I could see that it was eating her alive. I never responded to her letter. What was there to say? She couldn't take back the years I had lost. She couldn't give me back my freedom, my future, or the family I had dreamed of. And as much as I tried to move forward, I couldn't forget the woman who had once been everything to me, the woman who had sent me to prison with a lie, and the woman who had finally confessed her mistake too late. The truth may have set me free in some ways, but it didn't undo the damage. I had stopped seeing my wife long ago. The woman I thought I knew had vanished, and in her place was a stranger who had taken my life and shattered it. Thanks for watching. Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories.